Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. We're here for another bit of content, and it's an interesting conversation this evening as we're going to talk about the atmosphere, the attendances, everything going into the kind of stadium experience, I guess, and what we can do to improve it, or where the problems lie, whatever it may be. But I'm delighted to be joined by Pan, aka the Greek League.
Yeah, lovely to be on site. Yeah, thanks very much for having me on.
You start us off, mate, because I know this is one that this is one of the first conversations we had was when you said about this.
Yeah, I mean, it really bugs me, this one. I mean, I've been going down the city donkey's years. I'll start by saying 1981. So obviously the old days in Ninian Park in front of 2,000 fans is pretty dire. Obviously the younger fans have never experienced anything like it, but I can tell you for sure the 7,000 City fans down Ninian Park would definitely outsing 20,000 down Cardiff City Stadium. And we are where we are. We're 15 years on from leaving Ninian Park. A lot of fans, obviously still regret it, but we had to move on in terms of new fans, families. In the old days, we didn't really get many girls coming to matches. Younger fans, we had the Bluebirds.
Family enclosure.
Junior Bluebirds, which Rick Wright brought in, which was really good. But we have really brought in a lot of new fans from having the new stadium. I mean, the stadium itself was 27,000. We had that extra tier on top, which is obviously the awful red seats, which was built for the Super Cup. A lot of fans wonder why it was there, but I think we had funding for it to bring the Super Cup final. I think Real Madrid were in it when I went down to watch it. But obviously they're always empty, other than the Swansea derby game and maybe the odd couple of games. But there's so much side we can do down the city, because we've got Vince, who does so much with the supporters. But like I've said it before, but I think the fans engagement officer, we have got someone down there, and I'm not knocking the person if she's still there. But at the same time, we have to do a lot more down the city. 65% of the stadium on average is full. So 35% of our stadium seats are empty every single game, right? That is, and I know obviously, I mean, we're one of the worst teams if you did a league table of capacity, to fans turning up on average. And I know obviously some of the other clubs have got smaller stadiums, but it's not really good enough. And Cardiff City, with a catchment area, as we said before, 1.5 million people, should be bigger than a Norwich, who sell out every game, and they get 26,000. If they had more seats in that stadium, they get more fans again. So we should be getting 25,000 plus down the city on average. And one of the things I've come up with loads of things really, is when you've mentioned it yourself, the singing area in the Canton is all well and good, and credit to the lads who are in that, to drum up a bit of atmosphere, and it sort of reverberates around to halfway around the Ninian and some of the grandstand a little bit, but we need them closer to the away fans. It's got to be intimidating. It's got to be intimidating for the players who are turning up. We lost 10 games last season at home. It was like a home game for a lot of those teams. They're getting 70% of the ball, and the singing and the atmosphere is really poor. And the amount of times the way fans have said it's like a library it's just really bad. And we have to do more. So I'd say 118 in the Ninian should be a singing area. You could make it that. I haven't got a problem leaving the Canton where it is and creating a new singing area. A lot of the lads, the old school lads, don't go down, and they may not like the seats, but they'd accept it if there was more of an atmosphere. We had a lot of really good games in the Championship against the Wolves and that. The atmosphere, it can create an atmosphere. It definitely can, but we've got to be better in terms of our engagement with supporters. We should be creating a fans singing committee. Someone who's on board, who's creating new songs, new chants, because it's the same old songs every week. You know what's coming next. We've got to have that. And you look at the Crystal Palaces of this world, and as much as I would say they're not a big club, their fans at home are absolutely superb. And I know a lot of teams at home struggle with atmosphere because away fans always sing. but we've got to do more. So that's one of the first things I do. And I don't know what you think of that, because I know you've had
100%. I think like the biggest problem from the day they opened the stadium is that having the away fans so far away from the most vocal home fans, it dims the atmosphere straight away, because you don't get the back and forth, you don't get the banter, and that kills the atmosphere straight away.
Yeah.
Like Roger Gibbons, when I had him in here, was like, he was saying, like, when he was playing Ninian Park, teams used to hate, like, that first 15, 20 minutes of a game was just get through it.
Yeah.
Come into Cardiff. And we don't have that intimidation factor anymore. And it's not necessarily about it being hostile and the other side of things, like the violence and stuff which came with football, which I'm sure that's what the Wayne Nashes of the world and the police and people like that would say, oh, you can't put them next to each other because there'll be trouble. I don't, like, if you look around now in the UK, there's very rarely football violence or issues with that.
No.
You might get a couple of scuffles and stuff like in town and by pubs and that, but you get that every Saturday without fail, regardless of whether there's football on. So I don't think that's a valid excuse anymore.
CCTV,
the police, the CCTVs everywhere. There's police. There's still police there. There's still police there now. So it makes no difference. You wouldn't have to have any additional police. You just have to position them in a certain places. And I think what you have to do is, and I would say this, hopefully we'll have Mehmet Dalman on again at some point soon. And it's one of the things that I'm going to put to him is, like, Vincent Tan probably wants to sell the club, I think. I won't put that bit to him, but I'll say, like Vincent Tan probably wants to sell the club. He certainly wants to recoup the money that he's owed. The most effective way to do that is to stabilize the football club in the Premier League and blah, blah, blah. The stuff that we've talked about before. But how do you do that? Yes, it's about having a football structure off the pitch, which we've talked about, getting certain players in, keeping certain players, the right manager, all those things. Of course, they go into it. But also, it's making tweaks. One of the things which, the most successful companies in the world do is they look where they can make small gains and small improvements and small percentage advantages, whether that's the ball boys being a bit slow to give the ball back to the away team, whether that's the crowd being positioned in a certain way, whether that's the away changing room being really cold, or, all these things. And people will say, oh, it's like dirty tricks, or it's the dark arts. But it's finding those small percentages to make things in your favor without breaking the rules.
Exactly.
And I think the atmosphere in that stadium should be way, way, way better. But also, it should be fuller. But also, as well, it's Cardiff. We all understand Cardiff really now at this point in 2024 should be an established Premier League club. They should be, top 12 Premier League club, but they're not. There's been mistakes off the field, on the field, etc. But the infrastructure that's in Cardiff, the facilities that's around the city, everything is set up for it to be like a massive footballing community and a football club. And we're just missing the boat, I think, in how we attract crowds to the games. Yeah. Like, you've got the old school who switched off because the atmosphere's poo. Then you've got, we stopped giving tickets to schools as much. So you don't have as many kids there and families there. It's just about utilizing every tool at your disposal without, giving tickets to schools is not, it's so easy to do.
Yeah.
It's an email.
What should we get now? 1,000 tickets for every game.
There should never be any empty seats. You should just give them to the school.
Well, I think obviously what you're trying to do, Si, is create new fans, and the way to do it from a marketing point of view is if you're under 10s, right? You're under 10s. They're the ideal ones. I mean, I don't know about you, but I took my sister down when she was 4 or 5. She used to call us shitty. She couldn't say city. It turned out it was true as well. But I mean, even that age, she knew what we were like. But what I'm saying is that's what we need. We need the adults who support Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea's, which obviously we know how many Liverpool and Man United supporters there are in South Wales. It really annoys me. But then looking back when I was a child, when we didn't have satellite TV, we had the old BBC and ITV, and you just get the odd game. I supported Liverpool because they were the only side who were on the telly because they were in the European Cup finals. So I was watching them, and that's where I liked Liverpool. And then obviously I fell in love with Cardiff City because my granddad took me down. I was 10 at the time. So if we actually give out 1,000 tickets every game in South Wales to different schools for aiming for under 10s, they free for the kids. I'd open, you can have the if it's not the family enclosure, you can have the red seats, the middle ones, and have that as a dedicated area, not just for children under a certain age, because they go free and the adult with them has to go and pay a tenner. So we're getting something from it. But the caveat is they enjoy their experience. We make it an experience for them. And then they come back because the mum's never liked football, but she brought the son down. He might be supporting Man City, but he's come down. And that's what we need to do. Like you said, it's so frustrating seeing all the empty seats. And again, in the family enclosure, for example, you can move a few of the fans around a bit because it's never full and put all our flags. I mean, we must have at least, at the playoff final at the Old Millennium Stadium, I saw hundreds and hundreds of flags. We must have about 1,000 flags sitting in cupboards at home that should be on display every game. Why can't we say to all City fans, bring your flag down, we'll register it, you leave it on for the season, we'll have it out, and it just looks good. So that's the other thing we should do. And you're talking about new fans, we don't engage much with the Black and Asian communities. I mean, I go to a church where 90% are, from African and Asian backgrounds. I go every week. Fantastic people. And a lot of them are massive football fans. And admittedly, they support by the TV, your Chelseas, etc. But give them an opportunity, to get down there, come down. And they're really enthusiastic. And we need to engage with all sections of our community. So these are the kind of things we should be doing. And one of my bugbears is seeing those red seats. And I think if you put an appeal out to City fans, who are in the trade, if it's costing too much money to go out and spend 100 grand to paint them, we can, if you've got to engage local fans who will say, oh, I'll come and do it half price. I'm a fan. I've run a building business. We'll have blue, yellow and white. That's our colours. And that would look better, as well. So the engagement with the community isn't as good as it should be. And we should be doing a lot more. We should be creating a singing area with the atmosphere. As you said already, the away team is coming. The home team players are coming out. Yeah, there's a cheer, support the boys or whatever it is at the beginning. Silence then. Might be the odd bit. I know we haven't had a lot to cheer, but there are fans who are really, the clubs are engaged with their fans. And even if they're playing rubbish, they'll continue singing. Yeah. And that's what you need. And the old Ninian Park, as you know, we were playing in the old 3rd, 4th division. And the guys there on the Bob Bank were singing throughout. Non-stop. And the noise was great. And 7,000 fans, as I said, we never got massive crowds. Our average over our history is 15,000. If you said what our average crowd is over our history, it's 15,000 seasons. So we've never been a big club. But we can be a big club if we engage more with the fans. God, yeah. And we just need to do a lot more. And it really frustrates me. So I hope that, if you get Mehmet on, and look at halftime entertainment. I mean, from American sports, where they put I think it's in ice hockey or they put the camera on and you've got to kiss someone who's next to you. Yeah. It's a bit all these fun, different things. But all about the kids as well. All the kids in the schools should be getting chances in each corner of the ground at halftime. 5-a-side football for under 6s. I love it. I love to see the kids. They love it. The families come and they'll pay and buy a ticket because they're lads. But these families may never have come before because they support Liverpool. Yeah. But they've been given the opportunity to come down. The kids enjoyed it. And they thought, oh, what I mean? You've got to get new fans in to see if they'll come. And as I went down in 1980 with my granddad, I absolutely fell in love with it. I was on the Grange end. It was a shed of a stadium. The toilets were absolutely disgusting. But I fell in love with the club that day. And if I hadn't been brought down at age 10, I could have ended up being a Liverpool fan the rest of my life and not actually attending games. And there's so many fans in the Premier League who live in South Wales who have never been to a game. They actually call themselves Liverpool fans or Man United fans, but they never have actually been to a game. And it really sort of bugs me as well. But we've got to try and get some of these. Sam Aman did it before. Remember he said, burn the shirts and we'll give you a Cardiff City shirt. So in our centenary as well, I don't know. We haven't had any announcements.
No.
This is our 125th year, and we've had no announcements as yet about what we're doing.
Well, I know a guy who was supposed to be involved in making a video package for season tickets, where his company was going to make them and do like a big thing, interviewing fans, interviewing past players, cut it all together to announce the season tickets going on sale for the 125th anniversary.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. No, and not just he didn't get it. No one got it.
Yeah.
No one did it.
Yeah.
And then they wonder why the season tickets are down. But like for me, mate, right, is on a Friday, they look on the system, and if they can see that tickets are not going well, you get them out to schools that day, Friday. You just email the schools all around Cardiff and say 100 tickets for the first 100 people who want them.
They know which games are not selling.
Yeah,
they've got to do it a week or so in advance,
But, or towards the end, maybe not Friday, but the end of the week, contact the schools, contact the football clubs, like grassroots clubs.
Yeah.
Because they'll go in, they go with Wales ones, go in seconds, like they're gone.
Yeah.
And it's not difficult. You could reach out to podcasts, fan channels, whatever. Like even us, all right, we're just starting out and we're growing, but if you want to reach Cardiff City fans, you go to Cardiff City Facebook groups. Cardiff City, they've all got an owner or a founder or whatever it may be, local radio stations, fan channels, whatever it may be. And you put word out there, you run competitions, you give tickets away, do whatever you've got to do to make sure your stadium's full.
Yeah.
Now, I had a little sort of conversation, discussion point, I think it was earlier this week, where I said there's two sides to it as well in terms of the actual games and the atmosphere. So one side is the football team has a responsibility to entertain the fans, and then the fans obviously respond in kind. If the team starts fast and aggressive, the fans are up for it early, and then it all becomes a thing. If you name an attacking side before the game, an hour before kickoff, the team, the players, the fans are excited and stuff like that. But then on the other side of it, as fans, you need to stick with the team through thick and thin when things are going bad, and you need to create the atmosphere. And there's a thin line between that, because if the football's boring and the team look like they're not trying and this, that, and the other, then the fans are kind of switch off and start looking at their phones and, whatever it may be. But then if the atmosphere is also like moans and groans at misplaced passes, rather than a constant cauldron of chanting and singing and the rest of it, that can make the players more anxious.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's loud and it's aggressive, and it makes the players more up for it. So there's a thin line between that balance. And I think fans have a responsibility now. We know the manager's here now. We've got the contract. Everybody's got to get behind him, got to get behind the club, and they have to go out of their way to create that atmosphere. Because yes, you can, say all the different things that the club can do, and they absolutely have to do it. But I also think that fans, generally speaking, have become a bit apathetic to the the atmosphere side of things. Whereas, like you mentioned, Crystal Palace, I think that's a great example. And they got, a couple of years back when Crystal Palace fans really started being vocal at home games, some people were mocking them, saying, they think they're ultras and this. But you look at it now, I would argue that their home games probably have the best atmospheres week to week in the Premier League.
It's one of the better ones, isn't it? And I think on that point, if you look in Scotland, there's a lot of clubs there who are considered small clubs like your Motherwells, but they have got engagement with fans who actually have, and admittedly, obviously I'm in my 50s now, so a lot of I look at them thinking they're 12, 13, but they are 18, 19. And a lot of these lads who get together, 500 of them in a section, in a stand, will sing from the beginning to the end, and they'll have the flags out. And you put that in 118 on top of the canton. And as much as I agree with you about the players, but the players, you see, when they're going through a difficult time, they need the fans. Yeah. The fans are the key. If there's an atmosphere down there, and even if the game's rubbish, there's something for the fans, because there's and other fans. It creates more. I've had it so much, even in the old Indian Park, the Bob Bank was always singing. The grandstand was notorious because you never would. But it did actually inspire the Grange, when we used to have fans on there as well. And obviously we had them in the old Canton. So what I'm saying is, I know from history speaking that if you engage with fans in the right way, get on board a fans liaison team who actually create new songs, get a lad, what it's like in Italy. You've got a guy on a tannoy, right? He doesn't watch the game, but he knows his job is to get all the fans singing the songs throughout the game. And they will sing even if they're 5-0 down.
And those guys are facing the fans in all the games.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. There's a divide, there's a disconnect between our board and understanding of what it takes. Because of Tan really is not interested, and I say that word loosely because he's put a lot of money into the club. What I mean is he doesn't come over. Right?
It's not day to day.
He's running it from his office in Kuala Lumpur. He is looking to sell the club, but he wants us obviously to get back in the Premier League to get his money back. But he's not engaging with the fans. If he's not engaging, then going down to Mehmet and Kenju and all those other guys, it doesn't sit well. It starts at the top down, and you've got to do it. And I just think, in our centenary year, I hope there's a lot of announcements coming up. We should be having fans or family coming down, family of ex-players, because obviously we're 125 years, so some of them won't be around, starting off every decade, and then getting the players that were more recent, like your Dave Bennett, who was my favourite player in the 80s, getting him down and getting a big city flag in the centre circle with just the Bluebird, and having something complete. But there's no announcements, and we should have been planning all this, halfway through last season. Yeah. So I'm really frustrated about what we're doing down the club to engage with fans. We should be getting 25,000 every week, and we are big enough to fill that stadium. But as much as the board will say our gates have gone up 9% on the previous year as an average, the away fans are the ones who create the noise. And we've had, on average, nearly 2,000 away fans for most games. Well, yeah. And the leads come down. Exactly. And that sort of boosts our attendance. I know it's difficult on a Tuesday night at home when it's pouring down with rain. You're going to get the odd games like that. But you're absolutely right. The amount of City fans will get the phones out.
Yeah, I thought there's like an apathy, which I've never, like, it's not something which I've grown up with or I'm used to it. Like, I'm not used to that lack of intensity from fans. However, I slightly disagree with you in that, look, of course, all the decisions come from the board and in turn the owner. But I actually think where the disconnect is the people who are in charge of the logistics of the stadium and the ticketing, and I think that's where the disconnect is. Yeah, there's there's not just
it's all about safety.
It's not just a lack of engagement with the fans or like a community with the fans. There's a general, it's almost like a disdain to the fans. Not interested, treated almost like you're an inconvenience quite often. Whereas it's like they should want to be engaging with the fans. They should want to be filling that stadium. And that is certainly something which I will bring up with Mehmet Dalman, is like that, not just the lack of engagement, the complete disdain for match-going fans and for the people who are basically keeping the club going, apart from...
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think you're absolutely right. I do agree with what you just said there.
It's very frustrating to me, that is, because I think they're missing out on so much, mate. And I think... like, obviously, as we come towards the end of this video now, like, for me, they've got to change it, because if they don't change it, they're just turning more and more fans away. And the people of our age, sort of 40, 50, I got 3 teenage boys. Like, if those teenage boys don't get into, like, going to the football every week, you lose a whole generation of fans.
You can lose
my kids are 19, 17, and 15 now. And only like the middle one doesn't really like football. Fine. The older one is away, probably would go. He likes football. The younger one loves it, and he goes to the games with me, and he loves it. He wants to go with his mates and stuff as well now. But like, if you imagine, like, I stopped going for a good while because of the rebrand. I didn't go back, and I found it I did try, like, and I genuinely tried to go. When we rebranded, I went to a couple of games. I went to the Man United game because that was important to me personally because of my father, and I just couldn't. It just didn't
feel.
It just didn't feel right, mate. So I went to the United game out of principle and never went back until wasn't last year, was it? It was the year before. My son really, he just wanted to go for his birthday, and I was like, right, I'll go because he wanted to go. But like in my head, I had said I'm never going back until the owner changes.
But then you got tickets for the school.
Yeah, and then and then I got back into it as well from that. But like if my apathy or frustration with the football club and things like that, and if I was getting annoyed with the atmosphere and stuff, like if that carries on, you've missed out on 3 teenage boys or girls or both. You're missing out on the generations, not just by inviting families and kids, but by turning off and turning away the old heads who've been going to your football club for the last 20, 30 years. If you're annoying them because of your disdain towards them, acting as if they're football hooligans when they're like 40-year-old men who go with their kids and stuff like that, and you're treating them really badly, or you've got police being horrible to football fans, notoriously. And I could even talk about individual cases even from this season where there's people. But regardless, what I mean is you have to engage with all aspects of the fan base. And I thought you made a great point about the Black and Asian communities. There is I was speaking to a guy who runs Tiger Bay Football Club before, or was one of the coaches and stuff. And all of those kids, they all support Premier League teams. They've never been to a game. No. A lot of them never been to a game down the city. And it's there's such a whole generation of kids that you're missing out on by not engaging with their communities and not making them feel involved and embracing, get the stadium full, make it a day of it. We all love the football because we get to meet up with our friends, and it's not just football, it's a day, it's a social thing, of seeing people, and you see people you haven't seen and blah, blah, blah. Take your kids. And I think they're creating their own problems in many ways. In terms of the actual atmosphere, I say I do put some of that on the fans, because I don't buy into the entertain us. We pay our money and then we'll support you. I think you make some noise.
Yeah, I do. But I honestly do think the lack of engagement with supporters from the stadium point of view, whoever's running the show, really that is shocking. And we just need to do a lot more. And like you said, my lads were supporting Man City and I hated it. He was an 8-year-old. I took him down the city, got a season ticket, took him a year or two, but absolutely loved it. Wants to go down with his mates. He's nearly 15 now. And that is the key. It's about the young lads. It's about when I was 10. It's exactly how all these fans now, whether you're 50, 60, 70, started going down with a granddad or a guardian, etc. And they've got to do more. We can't go on like we are, because we can all sit here and say, or that they will look at it and say, we've gone up 9% on average. That's encouraging, 21,000. But it's not good enough. It should be. And I don't think it's just fans. I think we need to do a lot more, because you're going to get the same songs. We need to create more atmosphere. The 118 section should be full of fans singing, flags out everywhere. Get the red seats out. Don't have to take the red seats out, but you can get them painted or whatever, spray painted, be a bit cheaper. Get some people who are, in the know with businesses who are City fans. They'll do it on the cheap. That's the kind of thing we need. Make it look like, a Cardiff City stadium, because most of, as you said, we've been at this stadium 15 years and not one team who would come to our ground, whether it's a fan of an away team, a player or a manager, will say Cardiff City is intimidating, or it's not a ground we want to play at, other than the Jacks.
Or too comfortable.
Jacks is the only game that is an atmosphere. A proper atmosphere at the moment. And I know obviously players, if we got a really good striker who was scoring the goals, like a Chopra, which is very unlikely, the fans will, you'll get more fans down there. But that's lazy.
Yeah.
It's lazy. It's lazy. You've got to do more in the community. And as I said, I'm just really frustrated. I'm hoping, if the people who are in the know, listen to this, or other fans who've got a similar opinion, that they are doing something behind the scenes, because we can't go on as we are. So I just hope that, we do get more fans down there. We can be more engaged with our supporters. We come up with these ideas. There's probably a lot of fans out there who've got a lot of other ideas as well. We'd like to hear from you as well. And, let's get this ball rolling, because, as I said, you having the opportunity to speak to Mehmet will, obviously put these things to him and get them addressed. But I think it's a massive thing for us, and we've just got to do more.
Indeed, mate, indeed. We'll be doing plenty for the 125th year. We're going to put together some video packages. We've got, obviously, the history of Cardiff City with the club historian Terry Phillips, which is such a good series. Actually, this week, as we record this, he dropped an episode on the first black player to play for Cardiff City, Tommy Best. And it's a fascinating series for someone like me who thinks they know it all. And then, like, Terry's going into all these different subjects from way, way, way before my time. I find it fascinating, and it's really cool to learn more. And also, it's a change of pace in terms of the topics and the content which we're creating. Please do subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Check out Ace Podcast Nation as well to help me out a bit. And we'll be back very soon with more content. Cardiff City content, 7 days a week, by fans, for fans. Nice one.